62. And on this basis understand that truly the height of the first generations is immeasurable in comparison with those that follow, for such is the law inherent in all parcups of the worlds and souls, that first all that is pure is chosen for the building of, the parts of, and therefore first were chosen the vessels of the habit, Hakma, Bina, Da'at, of worlds and souls. And therefore were the souls in the first 2 millennia were infinitely high. At the same time they could not reach the height of the full light, because of the lack of the lower parts of the world and the souls themselves, namely, the parts, Haggit, Hezd, Vura, Tefereth, Neim, Netzah, Had, Chesed, Malhut, as already mentioned. So also later on, in the 2 middle millennia, when were chosen for the further construction of the world the vessels of Haggit, as well as parts of Haggit, souls, the souls were characterized by very high purity. As the height of the vessels of Haggit is close to the height of Habad, as written in the preface in Zohar, folio 6, beginning with the words, and that, and yet at the same time were of light hidden in the world because of the lack of vessels of the world from haze and below, as well as the corresponding vessels of souls. And so in our present generation, though these souls are essentially the worst in the world, and for this reason, they could not be chosen for holiness, i.e., for the construction of the parzuf of souls, until this day. At the same time they complete the formation of the parzuf of the world and the parzuf encompassing all souls, from the side of the vessels, and the work will not be completed other than by means of them, for now, with that the vessels of the Nehi are already being formed, Neka, Had, Chesed, and there are now in the parts of all the vessels of Rosh, the head, Tak, the inside of the body, Saf, the limit, the end, the light of the highest levels in Rosh, Tak and Saf to all who deserves them, that is, fully Naren, Nefesh, Ruah, Neshama, as already stated. And therefore only when these lower souls have attained perfection, the higher lights will be able to reveal themselves, and not before that. 63. And in fact, according to our sages, may their memory be blessed, in Babylonian Talmud, in Tractate Brachet, p. 20a, there is still this difficulty. Rav Papa said Abe, what was the difference between the former generations by whom miracles took place, and how are we different? We are different in that miracles do not happen to us. Is it because by the fact that they excelled us in learning? In the years of Rav Yehuda, study was centered on the section of the Mishnah, Nezikin, while we study all the 6 sections. And when Rabbi Yehuda got to the tractate Uksin, he would say, this reminds me of the arguments Rav and Shmuel, i.e., it looks so detached and brief that I don't understand it, and we study 13 different approaches to understanding of the tractate Uksin. But if Rabbi Yehuda took off one shoe during a drought as a sign of despair, immediately it rained, and as soon as how much we express our despair, how much we shout, no one pays any attention to us. Attention, said he, Abe, previous generations sacrificed themselves to sanctify the name of the Lord. But we do not sacrifice ourselves for the sanctification of the name of the Lord. End of quote. Carefully understand what it says. After all, it was clear to both the person asked, as well as the one who answered, it was clear that the first sages were more eminent than nevertheless, by scholarship, in the field of Torah and wisdom, were Rabbi Papa and Abba more outstanding than the first sages. 4. It has been explained that although the earlier generations were more prominent than the succeeding generations, by the quality of the souls themselves, as stated above, and it was so because first in order to come into the world, all the most purest, nevertheless, as far as the wisdom of the Torah is concerned, it is revealed more and more to succeeding generations. And this is because, as we have already said, the highest level in general is attained and finally formed with the it is by means of the most recent generations, therefore by them the light is attracted to the fullest extent, though they themselves are essentially the worst of all. 64. And the related difficulty is resolvable. If so, why is it forbidden to challenge the earlier sages in matters of the revealed Torah? And the fact of the matter is that in everything concerning perfection in the practical observance of the commandments, on the contrary, the early generations achieved more in this perfection than the later generations, and that's because that the stage of action comes from the holy vessel's spirit, and the mysteries of the Torah and the deeper meaning of the commandments come from the lights enclosed in the spirit, and you already know that the lights and the vessels are arranged in a mutually opposite order. That among the vessels first the highest of them are exalted, as said above, in N. 62, and therefore the preceding generations in the action have attained to greater perfection than the succeeding ones. With the lights, the opposite happens, the lower ones enter first. Therefore the lower ones are filled with them more than the first generations. And sort this out. Well. 65. And know that in every object there is an inner part and an outer part, and in the world as at Israel, the seed of Abraham, Yitzhak and Yaakov, the inner part of the world, and the 70 nations are considered the outer part of the world. So also in Israel itself has an inner part, viz. the fully devoted servants of the Lord, as well as there is an outer part, those who have not devoted themselves to serve the Lord. So also in the nations of the world themselves there's an inner part, which is the righteous of the nations of the world, and there's an outer part, namely the people who are the most impudent and harmful of them, etc. etc. So also among the devoted servants of the Lord of the children of Israel, there is an inner part, that is, those who are graced to understand the soul of the inner part Torah and its mysteries, and the outer part, that is, those who are not engaged in anything other than the practical part. Torah. In the same way, in every person of the people of Israel has an inner part, namely his step Yisrael, the essence of which is a point in the heart. And the outer part, namely his inherent stage of the peoples of the world, that is, his very guf, body, i.e., desire to receive. But even his stage of the peoples of the world is regarded as similar to the proselytes, for in order to cleave to the inward part, they are likened to the people of the nations of the world, converts to Judaism, who came and cleaved to the whole congregation of Israel. 66. And when one belongs to the people of Israel, he is more likely to exalt in his inward part, i.e., the inherent stage of Yisrael, than his external part, which is the stage of the peoples of the world inherent in him, that is, he expends most of his efforts and labor to exalt his inner part for the benefit of his soul, and a small part of his efforts, to the extent necessary, he expends for the maintenance of his stage of the peoples of the world, i.e., that is, for the needs of the body. That is, as it is written, in the Mishnah, Tractate, Avat, ch. 1, Mishnah 15, make your Torah a permanent occupation, and your work, temporary, Rambam, Hilchot Talmud Torah, chap. 3, Halacha 7. For by doing so, he results in the fact that both in the inner and outer parts of the world, the children of Israel are elevated in their perfection higher and higher, and the nations of the world, representing the outer part of the world as a whole, the whole world, honor and respect the dignity of the children of Israel. And if, God forbid, an individual of the people of Israel, on the contrary, to a greater extent exalts and honors his outer part, which is a stage of the peoples of the world inherent than his own stage of Yisrael, as it is written, Dvarim 28:43, the stranger that is in your midst, that is, his outer part, shall be exalted above you higher and higher, and you yourself, i.e., the inner part, which is your step Yisrael, will descend lower and lower. In doing so, he causes the outer part of the world as a whole, i.e., the peoples of the world, are rising higher and higher and overpowering the sons of Israel and cast them into the dust, and the children of Israel, which is the inner part of the world, go down lower and lower, God forbid. 67. And do not be surprised that an individual man is able to cause by his deeds the rise or fall of the whole world. For such is the immutable law that the common and the particular are alike, as two peas in a pod, and whatever manifests itself in the of the common is also manifested in the private, and in vice versa, the particulars do all the same things as the commonality. Since the common is not revealed other than after the disclosure of its parts and according to the quantity and quality of those parts. And undoubtedly, the action of the parts, in according to the nature of that action, leads to the exaltation or decay of the commonality. And because of this, it will become clear to you what is written in the book of the Zohar, that through the study of the book of the Zohar and of true wisdom, the children of Israel, of Exodus from exile to full, Tikkunei Zohar, end of Tikkun 6. And, at first glance, what does the study of Zohar has to do with Israel's deliverance from the midst of the nations? 68. And from this explanation it is well understood that the Torah also has an inside and an outside, just like the world as a whole. So also the one who engages in Torah has these two stages, and when he puts more effort into practicing the inner part of the Torah and its mysteries, it turns out that he causes, to the same extent, the elevation of the level of the inner part of the world, i.e., the people of Israel, higher and higher above the outer part of the world, which is the peoples of the world, and all the nations will be grateful and will honor Israel's supremacy over themselves to the point that it will be fulfilled as written, Yeshayahu 14:2, the nations shall take the children of Israel, and bring them to, and the house of Israel shall receive the peoples as an inheritance in the land of the Lord. Inheritance in the land of the Lord, etc. And also as it is written, Yeshayahu 49:22, thus said the Lord God. Behold, I will lift up my right hand to the nations, and before the tribes I will lift up my banner, and they shall bring, and before the tribes I will raise my banner before the tribes, and they shall bring your sons with their arms around them. And thy daughters shall be borne on their shoulders. But if, God forbid, on the contrary, a person from the people of Israel belittles the level of the inner Torah and its mysteries, exploring the ways of our souls and their steps, as well as the section on the deeper meaning of the commandments, in relation to the level of the outer of the Torah, which is only concerned with practical, and even if he's dealing once in a while the inside of the Torah, he devotes to it a small part of his time, when it is neither day nor night. 1. As if it were, God forbid, something unnecessary. Something unnecessary, then it turns out that he causes the belittling and the downfall of the inner part of the world, i.e., that is, the children of Israel, lower and lower, and the predominance over them of the outer part of the world, i.e., and the nations of the world, and they shall bring them low and despise them. And they shall bring the children of Israel down, and they shall think that they are, and the nations of the world shall bring them low and bring them low, and they shall bring them low, and the children of Israel low. Existence, God forbid. And more than that, they cause by this that even the outer part of the peoples of the world are strengthened in relation to the inner part of those peoples themselves, for the worst of the peoples of the world, those who harm the world and that wreak havoc in the world, are strengthened and exalted higher and higher in relation to their innermost part, that is, the righteous peoples of the world, and then they destroy and commit unbearable atrocities, which the sons of our generation have already made. God protect us from this, from now on. God keep us from this from now on. For it is clear to you that the deliverance of Israel and the entire stage of Yisrael depends on the study of the book of Zohar and the inner Torah, and conversely, all the destruction and of the children of Israel occur because they abandoned the inner part of the Torah and then lowered it lower and lower, and made it as if it were completely unnecessary. 69. And this is what the sages said in Tikkunim, i.e., in the Tikkunei Zohar, Tikkun 30, Path 2, words from the Tikkunei Zohar are enclosed in quotation marks. Beginning. Quote, Arise and awaken for the sake of the Shekinah. Saint, for your heart is empty, it has no mind to know or comprehend her, though it is within you. And the essence of the saying, written in Yeshayahu 40:6, the voice says, call out, that is, the voice knocks in the heart of absolutely every one of the people of Israel to cry out and pray for exalt the holy Shekinah, which is the assembly of the souls of all Israel, and is reinforced by the verse, call out, is there one who answers you? And to which of the holy ones can you turn to? Job 5 verse 1, where call out means prayer, but she, the Shekinah, says, what shall I cry out? Yeshayahu 40:6, i.e., that is, I have no strength to rise from the dust because all flesh is grass. Ibid, all of them are like animals that eat the herbs and the grass, that is, they fulfill the commandments without knowledge, like animals, and all her mercy is like the flower of the field. Ibid, all the good that they do. For their own sake they do, that is, they have no kavana, proper motivation, in the commandments, which they do, that is, they do commandments not for the sake of pleasing pleasure to their Creator, but only for their own benefit they perform the commandments. And even those best of them who took the time to practice the Torah, did so only for the benefit of their own body, i.e., the desire to receive. Without proper kavana, motivation, not for the sake of, to give pleasure to their Creator. At the same time, is said of such a generation, the Spirit leaves and cannot return. Tehillim 78:39, into the world, that is, the Spirit of Mashiach, who is to deliver the children of Israel from all their sorrows up to complete deliverance, in order to fulfill written, and the land shall be filled with the knowledge of the Lord. Yeshayahu 11:9, and this Spirit has been expelled and gone, and does not shine in the world. Woe to those people who lead to the fact that the Spirit of Mashiach is expelled and goes away from world, and cannot return to the world, and it is because of those who make the Torah dry, that is, devoid of the freshness of reason and understanding, for they confine themselves to the practical part Torah. And they do not want to engage and understand the Kabbalistic wisdom, in order to know and understand the mysteries of the Torah and the deeper meaning of the commandment. And woe to those who lead, by doing so, to poverty, drought, violence, robbery, murder, and destruction in the world. End of quote. 70. And the meaning of their words, i.e., the words of the wise men, given in N. 69, as we have explained, is that when all those who are engaged in Torah neglects both its inner part, as well as the inner part of the Torah, and forsake it like a thing that no one in the world need, and it must be practiced in a time that is not, which is neither day nor night. See note to 68, and they orient themselves in it like blind men, groping for a wall, then by this they reinforce both their outward part, that is, the benefit of their body, meaning the desire to receive, and also the outer part of the Torah they see as more important compared to the inner part of the Torah, and then, by these actions, they cause all the external parts that exist in the world are strengthened in relation to all the inner parts existing in the world, each in according to its essence, for the outer part of the community of Israel as a whole, that is, the people of Israel, who are not versed in Torah, are overpowering and destroying the inner part of the entire community of Israel, namely the great experts in Torah, and also the outer part of the nations of the world, i.e., that is, those people among them who are destroyers, are overpowering and destroying their inner part, that is, the righteous peoples of the world. And also the outer part of the whole world, that is, the peoples of the world, are overpowering and destroying the children of Israel, which is the inner part of the world. And in such a generation all the destroyers among the nations of the world raise their heads, and they want above all else destroy and slay the children of Israel, that is, as wrote our sages, may the memory of them be blessed. Babylonian Talmud, Tractate, Evamot, p. 63a. Punishment from on high comes into the world, only for the punishment of Israel. That is, as they wrote in Tikkunim, in Tikkunya Zohar, and this was cited above, they cause poverty, drought, plunder, murder, and destruction throughout the whole world. And after, because of our great sinfulness, we became witnesses of all that is said above in Tikkunim, and moreover, the attribute of judgment has harmed precisely the best among us, as wrote our sages, may the memory of them be blessed. Babylonian Talmud, Tractate, Bava Kama, p. 60a. Punishment from above always begins only with the righteous. Then of all the splendor that the community of Israel had in Poland, Lithuania, and other countries, we are left with nothing but traces of that splendor in our Holy Land. For henceforth it is incumbent upon us, the wretched remnants, are charged with correcting this deadly vice, and every last one of us, of the wretched remnant, must undertake the duty with all his soul and with all his strength henceforth to strengthen the inner Torah and to ensure that it takes the inner part of the Torah with all his strength. The level of the outer part of the Torah, and then each and every one of us will be honored to strengthen the level of its own inner part, namely the inherent stage of Yisrael, i.e., the needs of the soul, as compared to his own outer part, namely, the inherent stage of the peoples of the world, that is, the needs of the body, the desire to receive. And in order that this power may strengthen and the whole community of Israel to such an extent that the nations of the world in us to appreciate and honor more the step of the great men of Israel, and that obey them. And also that the inner part of the nations of the world, that is, the righteous of the nations of the world to prevail and subdue their outer part, i.e., destroyers. And also that the inner part of the world, that is, the children of Israel be strengthened in all their dignity and in all their highness in relation to the outer part of the world, i.e., other nations. And then all the nations of the world will appreciate and exalt the people of Israel above themselves. And they will fulfill written, Hoshayahu 14:2, and they shall take the sons of Israel, the nations, and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall take the nations as an inheritance in the land of the land of the Lord, etc. And also, as it is written, Yeshayahu 49:22, and they shall bring your sons, embracing, and your daughters shall be carried on their shoulders. It is written about this in the book of the Zohar to the weekly reading, Naso, p. 124b, cf. Zohar with commentary. Sulam, Naso et Rosh, pages 26 to 27, n. 90. beginning at quotation. Through this writing of yours, i.e. Rashbi, Rabbi Shimon bar Yohai, viz. The book of the Zohar, will come out, the children of Israel, from exile. By the mercy of the Lord, as already explained. Yes, it shall be so. May it be the will of the Lord.